Hi everyone, Lisa Gifford here, and so glad that you are able to join us today on our first one of the year, Creating with Martelli, and we have so many fun things going on for you today. We need some light. The lights are not on. All right, so we're getting everything up and going. We have so much to go over, and we're going to make an elephant completely from beginning to end. Martelli actually has 2 elephants, but we're going to make this little guy today. This is the original elephant. It's a 3-piece template set, and this is the size that we're going to be making today. And I don't have names here. Margot names all of our elephants, and she's not with us today, but this is the size of the elephant that we're going to be making, and here is the larger elephant that we have. Now, I know we've had it out for a while, but I don't think we've had any videos, so we wanted to go ahead and get a video made for everybody so that they can easily not just only follow the directions that come with the templates, but also we're going to have this video for you that you'll be able to go back and watch over and over and over again. So I actually do have a moderator here with us today. Hey, Melody, say hey.
Hey.
So Melody is here with us today, and she will be here watching everything. If any of you have any questions, all you need to do is just type in your question, and she will get it to me, and we'll answer it right here on screen. So if you have any questions, be sure to pop them into her. But right now, we're all about the thumbs up and the hearts around here, and be sure to like, comment, and share. That always helps us out with our numbers, and we appreciate that. So how are we doing out there? We got people watching?
Yes, we have so far.
Always tickles me. We got people go, well, how are we doing, Melody?
We're doing pretty good. We've got 81 views so far.
Okay, good deal. Are you all able to hear everything? So, I mean, we've been working, getting the studio all set back up. We had to move some things around, get the cameras, get the lighting, do a lot of testing, get everything so you can get some good views, because it's been a while since we've done a full video here in the studio where we move from all the different areas. We'll be at the cutting station, we'll be at the ironing station, of course we'll be at the sewing station, and we're also going to be heading over to the serger. So got a little bit that I'm going to be doing on a serger. Now, a serger is not required. You can easily do this whole thing on a sewing machine, but I've got some little tips and some tricks that's going to help make everything go very, very well. So usually I have Miss Margot, but she is not with us today, so she will hopefully be with us for the very next one, and that's going to be in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we will be doing a full video tutorial on the apron, and that's going to be Margot's 1-yard apron. So you'll be sure to write that down in your calendar. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be doing the apron, and we're going to show a couple different ways. We're going to show not only can you make it with regular fabric, but we're also going to show how it works really well with panels. And that's one of our very newest templates that we just came out with. Okay. Any questions? Everybody good? Everybody good? Good?
Hi everyone. Lisa Gifford here.
I hear my background. Can you figure out how to get that down? You got that? Who's that?
Yeah, I'm just having some problems.
All right, we'll get it all squared away.
We're good though.
Okay, so what we're going to need. So I'm going to go over the tools and everything that you need to be able to make this project. Of course, we're going to be focusing on our smaller elephant, but Martelli also has the larger elephant. And look back here, I've got so many that I have been, kind of doing an elephant storm around here. So this was one I just finished. I love the colors. I love having the little minky for the ears and the minky for the tail. And I'm going to go over some hints and tricks that I use to be able to do that also. So we got Penelope here, we got Gizmo, we have Mr. McCullicuddy, but I don't know the names of all the other guys. So Margot's going to get those, and when we have those, I'll be sure to put them out there. All right, so here's the tools that you're going to need to be able to do this project. You're going to need the Martelli template set, and this one is the small piece. Again, like I said, we also have a larger version, but it's a 3-piece template set, so you're going to need the Martelli templates. You're going to need a rotary cutter. I'm using the 45, but the 28 millimeter rotary cutter works very well for this. I like using the Martelli tweezers, and I'm using the ones that's got the curved neck, the precision tweezers here. I'm going to show you why I have this metallic pin here, because I use this on my templates. Our precision scissors, a very useful tool. You'll be needing it for clipping curves and threads and things like that. I also use the Martelli. I'm using the small clips. We also have the wide mouth clips, but the small clips work very well for this project. Some other things that you're going to need, I'm going to need a marking tool, a pencil. I'm using a pencil here. You're going to need some fabric. About a fat quarter will work for the smaller elephant, a little bit more probably for the larger elephant. I have an accent fabric that I have here. I'm actually going to do the ears with the accent fabric, but I'm going to talk to you about using the minky fabric for if you want to use it for the ears. I'm using a Bolsel shirt fuse or a fashion fuse or the SF101. It's like a fabric, woven fabric with the glue on the one side. It kind of stabilizes the ears a little bit. But there's so many different things that you could do with the ears. If you wanted the ears to have a little bit of a crinkle, so have some crinkle plastic. Pretzel bags work very, very well for this crinkle. Or one of those Trader Joe's or I'm trying to think, places where you can get those bags, for like 99 cents, like at Kohl's or someplace like that. The little bags that you might get at Bell's or someplace like that, where you can, shopping bags. It's got a little bit stiffer, but it's got a wovenness to it. It works very well for sewing, and it adds a little bit of a crinkle to it. And I actually have an elephant that has that in it. So this one actually has that. This is an old Trader Joe's bag that actually has that little bit of a crinkle in it. Gives it a little more stiffness, a little bit more body to it, and just something to pull on. So that's a fun thing that you can add to them. Trying to think what else I have that might. Here's a Mr. McGillicuddy. I've got a pretzel bag in his ears. So really easy to incorporate that into there. You just sew it right in. It stays right in place. Let me see. Like I said, I'm using some of the minky for the ears, but I'm also using some of this minky or Shannon fabric for the tail, and I'm going to give you a trick on sewing it with the serger and turning it right side out. Or if you just have a piece of flannel or fleece, cut a inch and just give it as a nice pull. It kind of curls into itself. You can use this for a tail. Of course, you can use ribbon, any ribbon. I found some old bias tape that I haven't used. I've got single fold, double fold bias tape, and just sewing it up on both sides. And then you can utilize this for the tail. So really, really different products that you could use for the tail. Works very, very well. Another thing that you might find that I'm going to use in this project is I'm going to have some yarn, because I'm going to use that for the turning of when I make the little minky tails. So I'm going to go over the little hint for that. You'll see these little this little turning tool right here. I used it, but I found using the yarn worked a little bit better, but I also used it for another purpose, and I'll go over that in a little bit when we get to making the tail part. I think that is everything that you're going to need. Oh, of course, you're going to need some batting. I'm using polyfill. Also, Martelli has a great product called our fiberfill, so it'd also be a really good thing to use to stuff your elephants with. But you could also stuff them with, I've done it with rice and beans or the poly beads. If you want it to have a little bit more body to it or make it more like a bean bag, you can easily do that if you want to use the poly beads. Now, when you get your template and open it up, you're going to have full written instructions on the inside. The written instructions works for whether you're doing the large or the small. So it works for both elephants, except maybe you're going to need a little bit more fabric for making the larger one. And I go over all on here about all the different materials and tools that I use for it. Oh, you're also going to need possibly a turning tool, like I use my knitting needle or a chopstick to help smooth everything out. That's going to be also a good thing to have. All right, so the first thing you're going to do when you get your Martelli template is I like to open, when I pull it all out, you're going to have your 3 pieces. And I kind of just set them down in front of me. And I like to go ahead and mark it. So I put my ear down, because my ear is going to go sewed into here. So I like to grab my marking template, marking a pencil, and I'm going to put a T on the top because I want that to know that's the top. And I'm going to utilize putting a T on all of my pieces that I cut out. So because the shape of the top is a little bit different than the shape of the bottom, so you want to be able to everything to line up really well. So I always put that little T right here. So when I'm cutting out each piece on the back side or wrong side of the fabric, or if you're going to be using the SF-101, I'll put the little T there so I know that that's the top when I go to fuse everything together. Now you'll also see I have an I and a V here. This is because this was done before we started putting our printing on there. So I put that I because it means I have instructions. That's the instructions that you see right here that comes with this template. And the V, I went ahead and put the V on there because now you're going to have a video. So I put the I and the V on there. And when you start from here on out, all the new templates are going to actually have I, instructions, a V, there's going to be a video with it. Or if you see a P that's on that template, that means there's a written pattern. So that's going to help for us for making sure when we do our packaging, but it's going to be also good for you so that, you know, if you see that I or V or P, you're going to know what that means. I, there's instructions that goes with it so you don't lose your instructions. And then V, that means that we have a video, so you can easily go to this page or go to our YouTube channel, to the Creating with Martelli YouTube channel, which is under the Martelli Notions heading, and you'll be able to find the videos that we have there too. Like this video, not only is it going to be here on this page, but you also will be able to see it on the YouTube channel. All right, so those are the three pieces. So I'm going to take the large one and I'm going to set him aside because we're not going to be doing anything with him today. And I'm going to set these aside. And we are going to dive right in and start getting everything put together. So I'm going to start with my ears because I've got to do some gluing. I prefer to go ahead and iron my SF-101 onto my fabric that I'm going to use for my inner ear first. Just go ahead and get that done. So we're going to go over to the iron and we're going to iron this down. And I think my iron should be up and hot and ready to go. Yep. And this is my little stick that I was telling you about. So I've just got this is my shirt fuse or my Bolsol fashion fuse. It's the woven. It's got the glue on the one side. So I'm setting that with the glue side up and putting the wrong side of my inner ear right here on top of that. And I'm just going to go ahead and fuse that on. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge because I don't want to get all that glue on my iron. I just go ahead and get that done. And another thing, be sure to iron all of your fabrics, get them nice and flat. Can everybody see me? All right. I don't think my arm was very hot yet, so get it all pressed on here. And I did get the fabric all pre-ironed earlier today, so it's all flat and ready to go. Except, you know, I just folded it up, so it might get some creases back in it. Do we have any questions while I'm getting this ironed down?
Not yet.
Good, good, good. Now this is one of those projects that would be really fun to try other materials. Of course, I've been using everything that's all about the cotton fabric, but this would be something that you could probably try different fabrics with. You can make one completely out of minky. I think I've done one out of minky. You could just do whatever kinds of different fabrics that you feel comfortable with using. All right, so I've got this one done. So I'm going to grab my ears. I'm just going to go ahead and fold it because I need to have a right and a left. So I'm going to show you why it's important, what you're going to see. I'm going to put that little T after I have them cut on here. So I'm just setting this on here. I folded it. I got right sides together. And I'm just going to grab my, you can grab your 28 millimeter or your 45, and I'm just going to go ahead and get this cut out. This piece right here is going to be my inner ear. All right, so got that done. So before I do anything, I'm just going to take my template, I'm just going to set it to the side. I'm going to grab my pencil and I'm going to write T on the top of this one. Flip it over and write T on the top of the other one. So now I know that's the top of the ears. So that's all we're cutting out right now for the inner ear. Now we're going to cut out the entire thing of the print that I'm going to use for the elephant and the ears. So I got my fabric here and I'm going to go ahead and fold it right sides together. Grabbing my pieces. Now you can kind of take a look and see what you want to be part of the body, and I'm going to kind of move it around. I think I like that look right here. See if the elephant trunk will fit on here. Nope, so we're going to turn it. I'm playing with it a little bit because I'm kind of wanting to see what the look is going to be underneath. And what I like to do, so that it all kind of matches up really well, is I like to have the elephant trunk, the other piece, to be right there up against it. And I'll show you why, because when I get to sewing it all together, it just kind of matches up nice. So I'm going to set this right here. Now the reason why you're going to need a marking tool is because you're going to have to do a little bit of cutting with your scissors right here at this curve. Can't get the rotary cutter in here even if I'm using the 28 millimeter. So right here, I got to trace this, and right here, I have to trace this also. So I just go ahead and set it down to a position that I like. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move it down a little bit, move it here. And now I'm going to go ahead and trace with a marker or a pen or whatever you want to use. I'm going to trace that area out, because I'm going to cut that outside of using the rotary cutter. Trace this one, keep this in place, and I'm going to go ahead and trace this spot right here. Because I cut part of that with the rotary cutter.
Lisa, where'd you get this fabric from?
Oh my goodness, who has this fabric? It's really cool, isn't it? James, do you know who this fabric is? This was something that they had in the fabric sale, and you know what?
That's beating me up right now.
I think, if you hold on just a second, I think I got a piece back here. You don't need to follow me, just give me a minute. I thought I had a piece of it folded up back here in the back. Maybe somebody knows that fabric line, because I'm not seeing it. Oh goodness, here's some of it. So I have a couple pieces of the line. So let me see if I can read what's on the line. All right, so it says it's a free spirit. I'm pulling up the selvage on one of my pieces here. Spirit to Create, Bio Geo2 by Adrian Laban, and it's by Free Spirit. So I have a couple, that's where this little piece right here is where I made this little guy. And they have several different colorways, so it's really cool. I really like this very colorful one because I could mix and match pretty much any color that I wanted to do for the ears or the tail. So that is what this was. Free Spirit, Bio Geo. That sound right?
Sounds right.
Bio Geo. So that's The Spirit to Create by Free Spirit. Sorry I didn't know right off the bat. Something that David had handed me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and what I like to do is I've got these pieces kind of butted up against each other, and I'm not really shifting them much, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece right here. Separate this out. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the rest of my elephant here. So I'm just going to kind of go around. I'm going to switch out to my 28 because I can get a little bit better on some of these curves. And I'm just going to cut around what I can. Coming back over, cut up through here. Coming up. And just following it around and off. Put my pieces there. Okay. Now this little piece right here, I'm just going to lift it up. You can use your rotary cutter because now you're not being hindered by the template, or you can just grab some scissors and very carefully, while the pieces are still together, just kind of cut on that line that you had just drawn, keeping all the pieces together. All right, so these two pieces are cut. There's my front and there's my back. Now going back to the piece that has the elephant trunk on it, I haven't moved it, it's still in position.
I love that non-slip.
Yeah, it's got that non-slip. I forgot to mention, that's what makes the tools so great. They all have the non-slip. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut as much as I can get to. And then I'm going to come around and cut here. Come around here and just cut right back off. Now I can't cut all of that. So I just kind of I got to keep this piece. We got to cut out our ears yet. So now I'm just going to cut in as much as I can. Cut right here. And then with my scissors, I will finish it up. So I've got my lines right here. So now I'm just going to carefully follow my lines with my precision scissors and just kind of clip around. And there we go. So now I've got both pieces for our trunk right here. So the last thing is my ears. So you have to have 4 pieces for the ears. You have your inner ear and your outer ear. So now I've got my pieces here. Kind of taking a look at what I have, and I think I'm just going to set my ear right here. Kind of like the swirls that's going on there. Maybe I might go this way. I can kind of take a look and see what's on the back side. Liking what I have going on here and here. So I'm just going to line this, set my template right here. Again, I have it wrong sides together. And I'm going to cut out a set just like when we had cut out earlier. This is what I'm using is for the outer ear, but you could use this for the inner ear. With that being said, if you're going to put some interfacing on like I did with the inner ear, that interfacing doesn't necessarily have to be on the inside or outside. It could be on either one. Now if I was doing, say, the crinkle or in there, I would go ahead and cut 2 pieces out of that, and then I would set that on to one of my pieces. I'll show you. So say I was going to use this and I wanted to have the ear to be crinkly. I'm going to take a piece, I'm just going to cut it out, just like when I'm cutting it out for the fabric. I'm going to show you what I would do. So here's my piece, and there's my top. So I want to be sure to mark where the top was. And I think I forgot to mark it on this one. So I'm going to line it up and mark my tops right here. So here's my T. I'm going to put a T here, flip it over, put my T here. It just helps me keep everything lined up a little bit better when I go to putting them all the pieces up. So here's my top of my they're a little crinkly, if I want it to have a little crinkle to it. So what I would do is I would take this and I would either serge it or sew it, and I would go ahead and stitch it onto one of the pieces onto the wrong side, because then I'm going to take my top of my lining piece and I'm going to set it wrong sides together. So here, then I'm going to sew all the way around, not sewing here, flip it out. So then that's going to put this in the middle here. So you'll have it in the middle. So I like to do that little step of stitching it down because it just holds it into place so it's not slipping and sliding on you. But we're not going to put the crinkle in, so I'm going to set that aside. Get all these all lined back up. So I've got now all the components that I need for my ears, and I've got the components for the body and for the trunk. So now I'm pretty much done with the templates as for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and set those aside. Now I'm going to show you a quick trick on using this Minky or Shannon fabric to make this little tail right here. Now, like I said, you can just cut a piece of flannel or fleece really thin and pull it, and it just kind of curls into itself. You could use the ribbon. You can use the, what I talked about here, the, what is it? I can't remember, bias tape. You could use the bias tape, whatever that you find that would works for this. But what I'm going to show you is using this little piece of Minky or Shannon fabric, and I did have a piece that's already cut. So here's a piece that I have already cut, ready to go. So I'm going to show you, we're going to go to the serger. I'm going to show you how I was able to sew this on the serger. I suppose you could even do this on a regular sewing machine, just do a zigzag all the way down, but that's such a tiny tube to flip it back out. So that's where using a piece of yarn comes into play. Now I did use the turning tool, this right here, but it was awful thin, very, very thin. So what I do is I cut my piece of Minky, and I want to say this is about, it's about 10 inches long, and I'm cutting it just over 1.5 inches. So I guess 1 3/4 inches. So I'm cutting a strip that's 1 3/4 inches. Now I've got my piece of yarn here, and I've actually got 2 pieces, and I'm putting a knot in it. And of course I need it to be longer than the 10 inches here, because when I go to serge this in, I'm going to have this in the center here, and I'm going to have that knot more towards the top, and I'm going to serge it, the 2 right sides together all the way down, but I'm going to have that yarn right there in the middle. So once I get it all serged, I'm going to serge across this right here, and I'm going to show you a quick trick on going ahead and getting it flipped out so that it looks like this.
We do have a question where they don't know how to tell what the top of the ear is. They said, I don't see where the ear is.
Okay, so let me show you.
The bottom.
Because I take it in the orientation as the templates are when you get them. So you've got your 3 pieces. You have your 3 pieces. So I set them down in front of me. So I've got my body. I've got my trunk. This is my ear. It's got a straight edge right here. So I'm taking this straight edge and I'm setting it across against this straight edge right here. So that is the ear. So to me, this is the top. So that's where I had marked it. Does that make sense? Because this, I mean, either way can be the top. It's up to you what you want it to be. But for me, I wanted it to always be the same. So even if I had the top on the other side, you're going to be cutting a left and a right either way, because you're having your fabrics folded right side together. You're going to cut it, and you're going to be able to decide if you choose this to be the top, then that will be your top. It could be either one, but this is what I had done. I just took my straight edge, lined it up against here. So now I got my 3 pieces of what my elephant is, and I just put the T right there. So that's always consistent the same. But even if I had it on this end, it's still going to be, you're going to have that mirror image. Does that make sense? I hope I addressed that. Just got here. Hi, Vera. Hi, Linda. I see some people on here. But yeah, I hope I answered that question for you, Vera. Yes? Any other questions? Any good? Okay, gotcha. All right, so let's get back to where we're going to create a fuzzy tail. All right, so I'm going to set these aside. I'm going to create it. This one, so this is a little bit different, Mickey. It has a little bit of a pattern to it, so it's going to look like this when it's done. This one here was pretty all fuzzy all the way across, but it's the same concept. So I've got my piece of yarn that I've cut, and I've got two pieces or one long piece that I folded in half, but I put that knot in it because I'm going to sew or serge over top of that knot. It's going to hold it in place. All right, so let me grab my glasses and we're going to head on over to our serger. Got chili in here. All right, everybody good? Okay. All right, so what I'm doing is I've got my piece here, and there's really no right or wrong on it. I'm just got it to where I'm going to fold it into itself, right sides together, and I'm taking my piece of yarn and I'm placing it in here so it's holding it up the top. So my knot is right there. I might slide it down just a little bit to adjust it. Now I'm lining up my two straight edges along the long ways, and I'm just kind of placing that yarn right there in the middle. The key is don't sew over your yarn, whether you're sewing it with a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine or whether you're going to be using the serger. So I'm using the serger, and this is a piece that I've cut just a little over 1.5 inches, about 1 3/4 inches. So just lifting up my foot, and I'm going to hold these pieces together, and I kind of take my finger and I slide some of that minky down to get it out of my way. But it's going to trim it off as I go anyway. So I'm just going to push this up underneath here just a little bit. Set my foot down. Now I'm just going to go ahead and just sew all the way down, kind of sliding the minky under so I can see my two edges. And we're going to just start sewing and being careful that I have the yarn out of my way and I'm not sewing it down. So I'm just kind of sliding my fingers under, moving that minky, and just going down. And almost to the end here. Now, I also want to make sure I flip it over to the back side and I make sure that I've caught it well on both sides. And don't pull too hard on it because you don't on your yarn yet because you don't want to slip it all the way out. So I've just got it where my knot is right here at this edge, right here. I'm just going to slide it down to where I can feel it just a little bit underneath here. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to stitch over top of that knot. I want that knot to be caught in my stitch. So I'm taking a look, guiding it up, and making sure that that knot is going to be caught in that stitch. Trim this up. And I'm going to feel it. It cut off the extra pieces of the yarn, but I should feel my knot right up underneath those stitches. So after I feel that it's there, I'm going to go ahead and sew over it again. Catch it again. So I do a double stitch on this end. Trim this up just a little bit. And my knot is right there in those stitches. So now we've got to flip this up, get this to be right side out. So this is where using your tweezers, right here I'm using the Ergo tweezers, and I'll pull on this a little bit, and you'll see it kind of push it in a little bit. So then I take the tweezers and I go ahead and start it just a little bit more. I'm just pushing it in. I wonder if you can see it just a little bit here. I'm got it right here, pulling it in a little bit. I take my Ergo tweezers and I push it in to kind of help with it going in. See how it's kind of folding in on itself right there? Now I just grab my thread, grab my yarn, and I should be able just to pull it all the way through. It started it, it's kind of slick, and it just slides right through. And there we go. How easy is that? That was so easy. All right, so I keep it on there because now I want to show you something else. If you can see this, so there's my stitch line. See that? So that's where all of that minky is caught into that stitch. So here's another use for your tweezers. I just kind of slide it under there, and I'm pulling all of that. I'm pulling all that fluff out that's caught into the stitch. And so now it's going to just make the stitches, the stitch line just disappear because you pull out all that minky, but kind of just brush it out of there. And it's going to make it all nice and smooth. You won't even see where your stitches were because you went ahead and brushed it all out. Make it all nice and pretty. And I actually used that Suki Sew's turning tool because I'll show you. We'll go back to the, let's go back to the station here. I'm going to show you how I used it for this application. After I had turned it right side out, I went ahead and fed it back through. If you have one of these tools, or maybe even your knitting needle would work, you just feed it in there, and I can grab it and kind of pull it out to the edge, and then I can easily grab those threads or the bits of the fuzzy and pull it out from the stitches. I just have a little more control of being able to get in all of those extra little fuzzies out to make it all nice and pretty. If you can see how that works. So if you don't have this, I suppose grabbing your knitting needle. I think I got one over here. That would probably do the same thing. Just having this fed into there. That way I can easily get to where I can quickly start pulling all of those fuzzies out of the stitches. So that was just a quick little trick that I had learned or that I had seen that just made my little elephant tail look a little bit better. And like I said, I usually make it about 10 inches, and I'm cutting it at about an inch, inch and 3/4. And when you get it all done, then you can go ahead and just trim off this little bit of thread, cut off the yarn, because you don't need that anymore. So now our tail is done. Now I did that because now we're getting ready to go to all sewing, because this is the last little bit, because you're going to need your tail done or whatever you're going to use for the tail, because now we go to the part of just constructing everything to put it all together. All right, so how are we doing? Everybody still with me?
Yep.
Everybody still with me? Okay. All right, so I'm grabbing all of my pieces. I got my 2 pieces of my trunk. I got my pieces for my ears, and I got my body and my tail. Got my clips, and we're going to head on over to the sewing machine, because I kind of just construct it and put it all together right here. So everything is sewed at 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure my machine is on. Everything's up and going. So everything we do is at 1/4 inch. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our ears constructed. So I'm going to grab my 2 pieces. So I've got my inner ear and my outer ear. And I know where my tops are. So all I've got to do is take them and line them up right sides together, where I have the T's both on top. So I've got them right sides together. And I'm going to do both of them. We're just going to stitch all the way around except for the straight edge. So I've lined them up. Here's a T, here's a T, so I know that they're lining up good. Just putting a couple clips in. You don't have to if you just want to hold it, because all we're going to do now is we're going to sew all the way around the curve. Do not sew the straight edge, just sew the curve. That's all you got to do right now. Do it on both of them. And that's going to be our prep work to get the ears completed. I think I got that one done. All right. Now I'm doing this The machine I'm using is the 15,000. So I've got this set on the, not on the buttons, on the 1/4 inch. And my stitch length is 1.8. And I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around. All the way around the curve. And I go ahead and do a little back tack right here at the beginning and end. And while you got one done, go ahead and get your other one done. All right, so now we want to go ahead and do some clipping. So you're just going to go ahead and clip. I clip about a 1/2 inch all the way around, or say if you have some pinking shears, you can go ahead and do some pinking. You're going to just clip these curves, get it all squared away, all clipped. Just takes a second, but be sure to get it done. It's going to make your ear lay just a little bit flatter. I think I'm doing it about a little over 1/4 inch, but not quite a 1/2 inch, maybe a 1/2 inch or so. Just clipping all these curves. Probably doing overkill. How everybody doing out there? Any other questions for us?
She's asking, or Linda Henry wants to know, where at this point would you put in the crinkle?
Okay, now I would have had the crinkle sewed in at the beginning. So I would have sewed the crinkle on to, let me see, I'm going to grab the crinkle. So here's the crinkle that I had. So I would have had the crinkle sewed in probably on the, I would have stitched it onto the, either the right or either the outer piece or the lining. I would have stitched it on the straight edge of one of the pieces. Just stitched it onto the straight edge. I wouldn't have stitched it onto the outer piece. I would just stitch it onto the straight edge. Because then I would have had this like this. So if I had stitched it onto the back side of the right here, then I put the wrong, if I would put it on the back side of the outer piece of the ear, of either one of the pieces. If I would have had it on here, it's going to be on the back side. Even if I would have done it onto the lining piece, I would have put it onto the back side. I would have stitched it across that straight edge. Then I would have treated it as if it was a single piece. Then I would have placed the right side or the wrong side, right sides together. Now I would have done my stitch all the way around. So imagine this is now stitched on all the way around. So then I would go and clip it, because you'd be clipping all the pieces, and then you would flip it in. This would be like flipping in like this. Does that make sense? Did I answer that? Hope I got that.
I think you nailed it.
Okay. I don't know. All right, so I got one clipped. I still need to clip another one. I can't remember. I did have one all prepped, but I can't remember which one I prepped. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one clipped. Now you got a decision to make. After you get it all clipped, we're going to go over to the iron and we're going to give it a press. Now you can easily take the time and do a top stitch around the ears, and if I'm doing a top stitch, that's the only place I'm doing it. I'm going to do it on my ears or not. It's your preference. I typically don't do a top stitch on when I'm doing the minky or the fuzzy ears, and I'm trying to see, yeah, I think I even do a top stitch if I put the crinkle on, if I made it crinkly ears. I just do that top stitch. It just kind of makes it all lay flat a little bit. But I don't do that top stitch with the Mickey. I tried it and I didn't like the look of it, so I just left that alone when I'm doing the soft inner ears. All right, so this one's all done. So now we're going to go to the iron and we're going to go ahead and press these nice and flat. So I push it in, give it a good push in. This is where I like to grab my knitting needle or a turning tool, and I like pushing all of that out, and I'll do it to both of them. To me, the blue is my inner ear, and the color is the outer ear. So I'm just smoothing it out, and now I'm going to hit it with the iron. Just smoothing it out and making it nice and flat. All right, so there we go. Now another little trick that I like to do is I like to add a little pleat, and I'll stitch it down with a little pleat. So I believe this is the opposite. So if this is my inner ear, where's my top? I'm looking in, I'm going inside looking for myself. So this is my top. So this is my two pieces right here. So this one's already done. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this all the way around. And then I like to add this little pleat right here. It's going to be this one right here. So I like to add it because it kind of makes the ear stick out just a little bit. So we'll get into that in just a second. So let's go back to, I'm just going to go ahead and set that aside. We're just going to make it. Hey. Okay, so now we're going to put a top stitch on it because I think it just looks a little bit better if you're just doing it with the fabric. All right, so I'm going to raise my stitch length up to about 3.5, I guess, 3.5. And I'm just going to go right along that edge about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm using kind of a gray thread on my machine today. So I'm just going all around, just kind of eyeballing it. Giving this little stitch here. And we'll go ahead and get the other one done. And going all the way around. Okay, so now I'm going to add those little pleats. So here's my two ears right here. Taking a look at the top because I just like to make sure I get it right. So here's the top. So this one and this one. So I like to take it, my little piece right here, and I just kind of tuck it into itself just a little bit. And I'm talking, it kind of looks like a little bit of an S. I'm creating this little bitty pleat right here, and I'm keeping it kind of straight. And I'm going to do a little tacking stitch right here. And I'm going to do it on both sides. And that little tacking stitch is right there on the edge, but it's not 1/4 of an inch. It's like about 1/8 of an inch. It's because I don't want it to be seen, so I'm just tacking it in. I'm just going to go over it, forwards and back, just to create that little pleat. So I'm going to do it on both of the ears. So I got this one done, and I'm going to do this one. And why I'm looking at it is because if I want it to be where the pleat is coming down on top, I want it coming from the top down on this side. I don't want it to be the opposite. So I look at my two pieces and I'm kind of matching them up. Making that little bitty pleat. It's not rocket science, it's just a little pleat. It just adds a little bit of dimension to that ear. You don't have to do this, but I just think it just makes the ears come off. It doesn't lay like flat against it. So I'm just doing it right there on that edge. So now my ears are completely done. So now we're going to go ahead and now we're just going to construct it. It goes together really quick right here. So you're going to grab your body. I'm going to sew it onto the body first. So you're going to have it where it's right sides up. So this one I've got right side up, and I'm taking the ear and I'm placing the right side, the bright side, on top of it right here. And I bring it down about 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch from the top right here. So I am going to place, I'm going to put a clip right here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm clipping it, and I'm going to clip it. And I'm lining it up against the edge here. Got this one lined up, just like that. And I'm going to grab the other part of the body, and I'm putting the right side, the bright side against the bright side. I'm going down about 1 inch from the top. You can kind of put them up against each other to kind of make sure you get it identical. You don't want it all the way up to the top because you got to remember you got 1/4 of an inch seam allowance that's going to be right there. So you want to be sure to not have it too far up, or it's going to get caught in the seam allowance when you're sewing the two pieces together. So I just have it clipped right here. So can you all see this? I've just got, so here's the back of the ear, here's the front of the ear, and it's just clipped into place here. Same thing for the other side. I don't have the head on yet. I've just got the ears clipped on. So here's what I find helps is I'm going to go ahead and just do a tacking stitch all the way down. I'm just going to tack it on at 1/8 of an inch onto this edge right here, because it's just going to hold it all together when we go to put the last piece on. Now, you don't have to do that. If you feel comfortable just lining them all up and just sewing them all together, you can do that, but I just found it was a little bit easier if I took the time and just tacked it on, even if it's with a wide stitch like a basting stitch, just basting it on there. I found it just kind of just stayed in place just a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm not having to fight it so much. So I'm going to go ahead and just tack it on about 1/8 of an inch right there on the edge. I'm not even back tacking. It's just holding it in place. And because the ears have that little bit of a pleat, you're going to kind of pull it over, and then you're just going to force it to just lay flat against that edge. So I'm just going right there about 1/8 of an inch in, because we're going to sew our head on, the trunk on, at 1/4 of an inch. So it's going to hide all of that in there. And if nothing else, this is just adding a little more strength to the ears, because I feel that the ears are probably going to get a little bit of wear and tear on them. So I got one down. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the second one sewed on. Just tacking it down about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Okay. All right, so now I've got it tacked down. So now I'm going to grab the head or the trunk, and now this is where we're going to put right sides together with the trunk piece. So it fits right here. So if you can see, here is my piece right here. Now I'm going to take this and place it right sides together, and we're going to clip this down, and we're going to sew this on all the way down. You kind of want it to do a little cross right here. There's going to be a little bit of a play right here, because think of your 1/4 inch seam allowance that you're going to be putting it in. So you're going to have it where it just kind of goes in and kind of crosses over. The fabric's going to do a little bit of a crossover there. So I'm kind of hoping that you can see what that is that's doing. So I've got it marked in place, and I'm going to put a clip here. I'm clipping all 3 pieces together, and I'm going to follow it all the way down to where it, and I might have to tug on it a little bit, but to kind of get it to cross over at the bottom. So I'm going to put a clip down here. So I'm just going to get it on here. I'm just going to go ahead and not worry about clipping it, because I already know it's going to fit perfectly. So I'm just going to line it up against the edges. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it at my regular 1/4 inch and at my regular stitch length not the basting stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch the head on. So I've got it at the 1/4 inch. I'm going to stitch it all the way down. I'm going to do a little back tack right here. And I'm just going to follow, just guide it along the straight edge here. That's why you want it to be a 1/4 inch, because you did that basting stitch of 1/8 inch. And be sure to back tack. I forgot to back tack, so I'm going to back tack a little bit right there. All right, got the first one done. So if I can just kind of fold it back and give it a good finger press, just like that. So that's what we're looking for. See that? And we're going to repeat that with the other one. So we're just going to go ahead and lay this on and repeat sewing that down. Like this one, I started at the legs and worked up to the top of the head. This one here, I'm starting at the top of the head and working down to the legs. Do a little back tack. And just follow those edges all the way down. And by taking the time and pre-tacking your ears, you're not fighting that pleat or anything. It's all just staying right there in place. Get to the end and back tack. All right, so here's where I like to do a quick press. So I got it all sewed. And we're going to come back to the ironing station and we're going to just kind of push it out just a little bit. See how our elephant is starting to take shape? I'm going to push it out a little bit. And just give it a quick little press. When you do these fun fabrics, you just never know how it's going to actually all turn out. But I wanted you to see, because I had lined up the head with the fabric that was on there. Remember how I kind of pushed them all together and then I cut in between it? So look how well it kind of lines up right here. It just kind of made the pattern just kind of flow on from the body onto the trunk. So I thought that was interesting to do. I've used that little technique on other things that I've done, and it just kind of makes it all look really cool. All right, so I'm pushing this over, just sliding that, just pushing it over and just flattening it all out. Everybody still with me? Oh, yeah. We are so close to being done, you just have no idea. All right, because now we got our 2 pieces. Now we're going to put the tail in. And the tail is so fast. Okay, so remember when I had done, now this is not the tail one to use, I'm going to the other one, because I kind of thought this color matched the color just a little bit better. All right, so when I had sewed it all the way down, and then I had done the sew across the bottom. So then I clipped the yarn off. So now that's my end piece. The other piece that's open, that's going to be what's going to be sewed into the back, or into the derriere of our little elephant. So taking a look at this piece right here, you got to figure out, where do I want the placement of my tail to be? Well, of course, I want my tail to be more up here, because when we sew all of this around, we have a space right here, a good space right here for stuffing, and it's a nice straight edge. Of course, you could do your leave your opening up here on the top for stuffing, but I found that the back of the legs right here was the best spot for stuffing. So I like putting the tail right here. So again, like the ears, I like to baste it on first before I go to sewing it all together. So I've got my elephant body right here, and I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to have it somewhere in the middle of this curve. That's where I'm going to place it. So I'm going to kind of just lay it on here, even though I have it a little bit tucked in, because we're going to have this sandwiched in between the 2 pieces. So I found it easier if I just go ahead and lay it on And then just kind of just right there on the very edge, just kind of tack it down. It's just tacking. You could clip it, pin it, but take that, to me, just held it all in place. And it's, again, it's the open edge, not the edge that you had sewed closed, but it's the open edge. And you can see right here on the back side, it's just catching it just right there on the very, very edge. Right, I'm trying to get to the camera. Right there on that very edge. So you see that? It's just right there. So I've just got it sewed right there across. I'm going to trim it up just a little bit, because we're going to catch it again when we sew our 1/4 inch all the way around. All right, so now we are just going to take our 2 pieces and we're going to match everything up and sew all the way around. So I like to start at my seam, put a clip there, and just kind of follow it all around. Now my tail is going to kind of want to move around on me a little bit. If you want, you can go ahead and just kind of clip it to the inside, clip it to the ear so it doesn't come flopping out as you're turning this around and lining everything up. But I'm just lining up all of my curves. And because we had sewed it right sides together, or we had cut it right sides together, everything should line up pretty close. So even my little cut lines or cut marks should all show right up. So I'm just lining up now my trunk, just putting a couple clips in here and there, lining up my intersection down here at the base of the trunk. Everybody still with me? Everybody following along good?
Yep, doing good.
All right. I don't know how we are on time, but we're still marching right along. All right. Got a couple more clips. I'm going to just kind of hold it into place. Just rolling it between my fingers and getting everything all lined up. That's why I liked going ahead and cutting this out wrong sides together, because all of your cut lines just all match up. Now I'm going to put a red clip right here at the base of the leg, so I know that that's my starting point. I'm going to come across that tail, and I'm going to put a red clip here. That's going to be my stopping point, so I know that's where my start and stop is. Put another clip right here. All right, so I just got clips all the way around in different spots. And I normally would have probably done more clips, keep it all into place. And we're getting close on time, so I'm going to put one more right here. And get one right here. Get the tail out of the way. You don't want to inadvertently catch the tail. Okay, so now I'm just going to start right here at the base of the leg, and I'm going to stitch all the way around a 1/4 inch. Now, one of the things I like to pay attention to as I'm doing this is when I get to where I'm doing this section right here, I just kind of make it, take my time, nice gentle curve as I'm coming up through here. I don't want to have any start or stops or sharp angles as I'm going around. So I'm just kind of gently curving around a 1/4 inch, coming back down, curving around. When I come to this little angle, even though it looks like it's a start and stop, I still just curve it around. And when I even get to the base of the trunk, right here, it looks like you would be coming up and then just pivoting around. But I found it looks a little better, lays a little bit better, if you just kind of come up and then just cross over with a couple of stitches and then curve back down, instead of coming up and then pivoting like you would normally just come up to the stitch to the seam and then just pivot to go back around. I found if I go up and then just cross over with like 3 stitches and then go my curve, follow the trunk all the way around, I found it it didn't pucker so much right there in that spot when you go to filling it. Now this is an area right here where a lot of times when you're filling, it just kind of fails a little bit. You want it to be able to stay nice and full, and I found that if I had where I had done that pivot, for some reason it kind of lost its stuffing right there in that area, and don't ask me why, but when I found that I took the time and curved it a little bit better, then it held up a little bit more. So take your time, curve over that, then curve up and around the trunk, and we're just going to keep on just till we get to the end, and when I get to the other red, that's where I'm going to stop. So is everybody with me? Does that all make sense? I hope we're getting there. All right, so we're going to go 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So I'm going to just start right here, do a good back tack, and just go. Get everything in my way. And I'm taking my time right through here. Want my curve to be nice and gentle as I come across this piece right here. Now it's kind of pulled off me a little bit. Pulled that thing off just a little too soon, but just keep it at that 1/4 inch. Keeping it nice and curved, gentle. I'm going to grab my tweezers. It shifted just a little bit, and I'm going to pull this over. Now coming up to that juncture of the trunk, I'm going to come up, curve it just a little, take a couple of stitches across, maybe one more, and now we're going to come down and do that curve for the trunk. Follow it up and around. Making it a gentle curve here. I didn't want it to be real angular. All right, and then we're following around to here. Coming up to the tail. Now as I go across the tail, I'm going to back tack over that tail just to give it an extra little holding pattern here. And come back and then get to where I'm going to do my back tack, because that's my spot where I'm going to be filling it in. All right, you do need to take the time and clip your curves. So the most important curve is this one that's along the inside of the legs, the 2 legs here. Giving it a good clip all the way through here. It's very important, or it's going to have a wrinkly look if you don't. So clip all your curves all the way around. When you come up to the part of the trunk, so I clip that curve, but I kind of clip it on both sides of the seams that are right there. And then I just go ahead and follow it the rest of the way around. Any questions for us out there, Melody?
Nope. You're doing an awesome job.
Everybody still with us?
Yeah.
Nobody's left me? Because it's getting long. Now, normally, these literally take, I would say, about an hour to make. But this one's taking a little bit longer because I'm doing a lot of talking, explaining everything to you. But, you know, they don't take long at all. And they're just so much fun. And every single one you make has a different personality. Ask Margot. She'll tell you. She names them all. I was thinking my little pink one over there with the fuzzy ears, I think her name needs to be Bubbles. But I'm going to let Margot choose all the names, because if y'all don't know, Margot is obsessed with elephants, has a large collection of them. She actually got to, how many in our lifetime gets to ride an elephant? She's rode an elephant. So that is just amazing. All right. Oh, got my last leg to go around. Again, I'm clipping at about 1/4 of an inch, I would say. Maybe getting a little bit closer when I have a tighter curve. Go ahead and get your pressing tool out, or your grandma stick or your knitting needle, because you're going to be using it to push out all of your edges. So now that I've got it all clipped, I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to start pulling it through. Got that clip that's in here, so let me get that off. We're going to grab our ears and just start pulling it through our opening here. All right, and let me see. We're going to go over to the ironing station, because I'm going to give it an iron, and I'm going to show you why it's so good to do this ironing spot. All right, so I'm just using my knitting needle. I'm just kind of pushing out all of my seams on that back curve, getting the head pushed out. I'm going to grab the dull end of my knitting needle, and I'm going to push that trunk through, or if you can get your finger up in there and push the trunk through. Just don't want my knitting needle to poke it out. Just pushing it out. It comes to the end. And then getting the last leg through. All right, then I'm going to take my knitting needle and I'm just going to carefully push everything out, going along the seam, or whatever tool that you have that you use to push out all those seams. Get both the legs, go around between the two legs, and then the back side. All right, so why I like to take the iron right here is because the opening, it's such a straight edge right here. So I'll go ahead and make sure everything is all pushed out, and I'll roll those in. And I like to go ahead and tap that with the iron. And it's going to hold its shape so that when you go to get all the stuffing in there, it'll be so much easier for when you do your hand sewing at the end. So yeah, I forgot to mention you're going to need a needle and thread just to do some hand sewing. So I go ahead and just catch everything. I'm going to go ahead and iron that section between the legs so I get all that wrinkles out, because that's a tight area right there, a lot of curve going on. And I'm going to catch this section right here between the trunk. If you didn't clip it enough, you'll know it. And just give it an iron, just makes it all nice and flat. And once you get it all nice and ironed, you are ready to go to start stuffing. I'm going to go ahead and push out the little bit of the head here. And that is a funky little elephant here. All right, so let's go back over here. So that's it. All you have to do now is just stuff it, and a couple little tricks. Start with the trunk first. I get a little piece, and I kind of work that trunk first. So it's going to take a minute once you get it into the trunk. And I found that if I use a pencil that has an eraser on it, it helps push it up there to that very edge just a little bit better. So here's my pencil with an eraser. Of course, you'd want one that wouldn't be so sharp. But it kind of grabs it, and it grabs that polyfill or fiber fill and gets it up to the very nooks and crannies of the end of that trunk. That rubber eraser just kind of grabs it and pushes it up in there. So I like to make it kind of tight right there. And as I'm filling, so I don't have it where it comes separated right here, I keep filling. I make sure I get that trunk first, because to me, that's the most important part, where it might get a little flimsy. And I think on the very first one that I did, you can see where it feels like there's no stuffing right here. And I think it's because I didn't take the time to make it more of a curve right here. But also, when I get to where I've got most of that trunk filled by pushing it in, I have my finger kind of hollow out a little spot right there in the middle, so that when I put in my next piece, where I'm going to start with that bottom first leg, I'll tuck this into that leg, then I'll shove a piece of what I have going into the leg into the center of that trunk, and that seemed to help hold it all together. So I have a big piece that's shoved into the leg, but then I also kind of weave it into the center of the trunk. So when I did that little step, I didn't have so much of that failure here. As you can see right here, it's just more solid. So it just kind of, by taking little pieces and doing that. So I hope that helps. Does everybody understand that? I just seemed it made it a little bit better when I kind of had the two kind of connecting, that first leg and that and the trunk, when I kind of pushed it in, but I also had it going down. And I had that little hollowed out part. It just seemed to make it better.
Lisa.
What? Her name is Ziggy?
Yeah, yep. I was just going to say, she named it.
This one is Ziggy? This is Ziggy? Okay, what's this one? How you feeling, Margot? I hope you're feeling good. All right, this one is adorable, and I love the fuzzy ear. I also like to take my tail and I'll put a knot on the very bottom. I just think it makes it just so much fun. But you just keep stuffing, whether you're using, like I said, the polyfill or the fiberfill. But to me, making sure you have that first leg and the trunk where they kind of interconnect too. It's going to keep it where it doesn't feel like it's going to be failing there at that intersection. And then I just keep adding until I have it all stuffed. And then the last thing that I fill, based on where I had left my opening, the last thing that I fill is that last back leg. So I just keep adding and pushing and adding and pushing until she looks all pretty. And then you can seal it any way you want. I prefer using the ladder stitch, and I don't have, I'm not going to do one here, but there's lots of videos and lots of tutorials out there on doing the ladder stitch. And our very own Sherry Myers was the one who taught me how to do a ladder stitch, and I was always just a whip stitcher. So learning how to do a ladder stitch makes everything look so much better. But I don't recall learning how to do a ladder stitch when I was in 4-H. I do remember learning the whip stitch. So I'm just going to keep on filling. I haven't even started with that back leg yet. I'm just still filling the body, filling the head up, just pushing it in there. Ziggy is such a great name. Oh, Laura, you want me to send it to you? I'm getting better at it, but it's still not one of my favorite things to do. Almost got it to where I think he looks about right. Kind of mush it around a little bit. Just a little bit more. And now I'm going to work on that bottom leg. And then we will have him all filled out. So who's excited that we are getting the Creating with Martelli show back up? I am so excited that we have that going on. We're going to hopefully get to where we're going to be doing these every week. But right now we're going to start off we're going to do every other week, probably for the next couple of months or so. We're working on getting the schedule all played out and getting everything all planned out. And in 2 weeks, Miss Margot will of course be with me, and we will be doing her apron, and we're going to make one on camera for you there. And we got really some great ideas for that one. All right, you can add eyes if you want to add a little eye to it, but there it is. Just needs to be sewed. Isn't that just adorable? So play with your fabrics. Find some funky fabrics that you don't know what to do with. Make elephants out of it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. All right, any questions? Are we good?
I think that we're good. Everyone says that it looks super awesome.
I know. It's so adorable. Again, putting that little pleat on it gives it a little bit more personality, I think. On Ziggy. For Ziggy.
We're so happy that the show's back on.
I am too. It's been a long road. Well, you know why. We didn't have the capability to create templates on all these different things. And I've got so many ideas for you, Margot. And we're going to have a lot of fun with the Creating with Martelli, whether we talk about all kinds of things, or maybe we make something or just learn a new technique, but that's what we're planning on doing. It's going to start off, like I said, every other week, so go ahead and mark your calendar, and then probably sometime, we're hoping maybe right around Easter or right after Easter, hopefully we can go into more of a weekly basis. And then starting not this Friday, but next Friday, we will also be doing our weekly wrap-up. So we're going to talk about things that happened that week, but things that's coming in the future. So be sure to mark your calendars for that. That will be on the main page. It will be our weekly wrap-up, and it will be on Fridays. And I believe, I don't know if we chose 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock, but we'll get that narrowed down. So you'll start seeing the weekly wrapping up coming up too. All right, so that is the elephants. I'm going to show them all to you. I know this is Gizmo. I thought this one should be Bubbles. This is adorable, a little pink one. Don't know. Flutterby. Come on, Margot. What are we going to name her? This is the little butterfly. This one's probably one of my favorites. This one was one of the early ones that I had made. Used the little ribbon for the tail. And this one I just made. So just a lot of fun. These were just, you can't have enough elephants, right, Margot? All right, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I was a little bit nervous because it had been a while since I'd done a video for you. Thank you, Melody, for being there and answering Ed questions and following it along. And, of course, James for being on the camera. And then David popped in, had a question, and left. So I guess he forgot I was filming today. All right, so we are good to go. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, comments, anything, you could always reach me at learn@martellinotions.com. Any comments, any questions that you might have, learn@martellinotions.com. If you kind of put them in here, they might get lost in the shuffle, but you can always email me. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful day, and God bless. Bye-bye.